CTV News at 6 with Joe Perkins.
BC Liberals are in Whistler for day 2 of their annual convention, and the focus today remained on boosting party morale. Despite recent polls suggesting the NDP and leader Adrian Dix are gaining ground, the Liberals remain confident, and that's left some wondering if the party can really turn things around. Stephen Andrew has been covering the convention in Whistler, and he joins us now with more. Stephen, can the Liberals win back that support?
It's the $20,000 question, if you like. Can they turn things around? But certainly the party is using this convention here in Whistler to paint a picture of renewal, a picture of free enterprise, and of course being open and transparent. And that's certainly how the day got off to that start. It began with delegates posing questions to Cabinet, and judging from the answers, it's going to be a busy spring for the Liberals. The Minister of Seniors says legislation will be introduced to appoint a seniors advocate, and Attorney General Shirley Bond is promising to bring in the second phase of her plan to speed up the justice system. But a large part of the day was devoted to election strategy, a race the Liberals believe they can win if they can get their message out.
Every election is different, but this upcoming election of May of 2013 is going to be a critically important one for the province of British Columbia. That means all candidates have to be ready. All candidates need to understand the importance of what we're fighting for here, which is for the economic prosperity of British Columbia.
And a lot of work for Liberals too.
Especially a lot of work for the BC Liberal team as a whole. We've got to get our volunteers mobilized. Once again, we have to make sure all the candidates are able to get out and reach and talk about the things that are important to British Columbians, from ministers to continually to hear of ideas and things that we can do. Our jobs plan was in place. We have our skills plan in place. People don't always hear about those great new initiatives that we have, the accomplishments that we've had. This is all important.
Also on the agenda today, delegates voting on a number of motions, including a proposal to raise the transfer property tax threshold, but delegates rejected a proposal to eliminate the carbon tax, arguing it would make it too tough to balance the budget come February 2012. So, Joe, if this is a party that's going down to defeat, you certainly wouldn't know it talking to the delegates here in Whistler. Their job now, of course, is to go back to their communities and try to convince voters there that the Liberals should be given a second chance come May 2013. Joe?
Stephen Andrew reporting tonight from Whistler. The province is suspending its use of Novartis influenza vaccine products after recommendations were made from Health Canada. As a precautionary measure, Health Canada is recommending all healthcare facilities stop using the Novartis vaccines based on a similar suspension of use of these products in Europe. The suspension is based on reports of small clumping material noticed in the vaccines in Italy. There have been no adverse effects related to these vaccines, and no concerns have been seen with supplies already used in Canada or within the province of British Columbia.
Well, we have 70% of our vaccine available. We anticipate having the results of Health Canada's risk assessment this week. So I'm pretty confident that we will have sufficient vaccine available for everybody who wants it, yes. We're certainly not likely to run out in the near future.
Novartis products represent about 30% of the total of BC's provincial flu vaccine supply. People who have already been vaccinated should not worry. There have been no safety concerns identified in the vaccine used to date. The union representing transit drivers in Greater Victoria kept its foot on the brake today as negotiations between BC Transit and the union remain stalled. More than 60 trips were cancelled today. The Canadian Auto Workers Local 333 says job action will continue to escalate until transit comes back to the table. The union and BC Transit have been at odds over wages, job security, and plans to purchase new community shuttles. Yesterday, more than 80 trips were cancelled. Passengers appear to remain mixed on the labor dispute.
Well, I think it's kind of abusive. I'd rather know up front that they're all not there rather than just kind of find out when I'm downtown.
I actually haven't been affected by the bus cancellation because in Victoria, we're lucky enough to have so much cycling infrastructure. I actually bike to work every day.
Very frustrating. When you have to wait for an hour for a bus, and if you miss connections, it's very frustrating. And I have no alternative, so you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
BC Transit says to expect similar cancellations for tomorrow. No plans to talk are scheduled in the near future. For more information, you can go to transitbc.com. We are only a few sleeps away from one of the busiest nights of the year, not just for children. Police are gearing up for a busy Wednesday night as Vancouver Island trick-or-treaters hit the streets. For police and emergency crews, Halloween can be exactly what it sets out to be, a nightmare, but it doesn't have to be. And that's why police recommend making one final safety check before heading out the door. It's an unfortunate reality of Halloween weekend, the leftovers of parties that sometimes get out of control, spilling onto streets like a party did last night in Saanich.
The host of the party asked for our help because there were lots of party crashers and unwanted guests there.
2 people were arrested, one of them fleeing before the handcuffs were on. An officer is now recovering from injuries sustained during the chase. A rough start to one of the busiest weekends of the year.
We've got lots of extra officers working. That begins this weekend with all the Friday and Saturday night house parties and get-togethers.
And the warnings go beyond parties. With conditions expected to be wet and dark, emergency officials say the safety of young trick-or-treaters becomes top priority.
Number one thing is probably with the costume, try and wear light clothing and maybe avoid the face mask and face paint instead.
Police also suggest bright clothing, anything that stands out.
We always encourage kids to trick-or-treat in groups or small groups if they can.
And then there are the fireworks, prohibited in Greater Victoria unless you have a permit. So far, officers say they haven't had to seize any fireworks this year and hope it stays that way. Anyone caught illegally lighting up the sky could face heavy fines.
They start at as low as $100 and they go up as high as like $600+. So it just depends on the context and it depends on the section of the pile-up.
Tomorrow, Saanich Fire Department offers its final fire workshop, a requirement if you want a fireworks permit.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. With Halloween festivities of all kinds already in progress, it seems most parents are prepared.
Just make sure that you're with them at all times.
They know to check the candy after it's collected, to leave lights on at the house, and despite threatening the authenticity of the costume, they know to enforce jackets if it's cold.
I mean, he's got his jacket on, he's going as Spider-Man, but he's still wearing a mask, so you can pretty much see his costume.
Spider-Man in a coat, a small price to pay heading into a night that deserves a little extra attention. Halloween not just for children, also for dogs. Dozens of dogs dressed in their Halloween best took over the streets of downtown Nanaimo today. Although fun, the SPCA warns Halloween can be a scary time for pets and recommends keeping pets inside on Wednesday, also keeping them away from any candy. The SPCA also recommends that all pets wear identification come Wednesday night, just in case. 2 Saanich police officers are recovering tonight after a routine arrest turned into an unexpected attack. Around 4 a.m. this morning, police responded to a report of a suspicious man in the High Glanford area. The 36-year-old man was acting aggressively and in an unusual manner while being handcuffed. The man spontaneously landed what police say was a closed-fist haymaker, striking an officer in the jaw. The second officer suffered a wound to his face trying to control the suspect on the ground. The suspect was taken to hospital for a mental health evaluation. Police say the man has a history of assaulting police and charges are being recommended. Welcome back. Day 2 of the Council of Canadians Conference was held in Nanaimo today. The focus of this year's meeting centered around trying to sink the Northern Gateway pipeline project and challenge the agenda of Harper's Conservative government. Members from across Canada gathered to discuss a variety of environmental and health concerns they fear could arise from the pipeline project.
Yeah, and they've come as members of the Council of Canadians to discuss these important issues about the kind of government we want, a fair taxation system, cleaning up the environment, and building the kind of Canada we want to have.
Speakers today included Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, who challenged the 200 group members to stand up against the pipeline projects in BC. The chief was in Victoria on Monday when thousands of people packed the BC legislature lawn to protest against the proposed pipeline from Alberta to the west coast of BC.
Again, we have every reason to oppose the Enbridge pipeline proposal, the Kinder Morgan pipeline expansion project, the new Prosperity Mine, and the Site C Dam, because they're detrimental to the interests of the future of our grandchildren. And we continue to push back on this agenda of the Clark and Harper government. If it means going to jail, my wife and I are fully prepared to go to jail.
The conference was capped off by a march and rally this afternoon at Nanaimo's Pioneer Plaza.